Hello and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Hazel de Kloe, the Wealth Whisperer, and this show is just for you. If you are either struggling to make ends meet at the end of each month, or you want to ensure that you have a good surplus at the end of each month so that you've got more scope of what to do with your ready cash, or you just want to know how to make your money go further. So if that's the case, then these tips in this episode are just for you. Today, I'm talking about how to save money. And rather than just the usual talk of switching utilities and mobile phone contracts and checking your insurance renewals, today I want to share with you perhaps some of the more unusual ways to save money and make your cash go further each and every month. So these are my top 5 most perhaps unusual and powerful ways to save money. So if you're ready to listen in, then let's go. So my first idea is actually the coffee story. So let's begin. Actually, I'm not going to take the credit for this one. This was my husband who came up with this one. He had the idea of this quite some time ago to demonstrate the power of saving on a compounding basis for items that you would have every single day. So let's talk about this one. So we're talking about the coffee story. So let's say that you like the odd coffee. And let's say that you go to grab yourself a coffee on the way to work, or perhaps when you're out with a friend, or what have you. And let's say that the average you do is 1 coffee a day. That's quite common for a lot of people. They grab a coffee at the service station or the tube station, train station, bus station, whatever, and they grab themselves a coffee. And these days, typically speaking, let's say that a coffee from Costa or Starbucks or Nero, somewhere like that, will cost you an average about £4. Yeah, that's around about the average, isn't it? So think about that each and every single day. Now, if you were to add that up every single day for a year, a £4 cup of coffee, you'd be talking about £1,460 just for 1 cup of coffee. Now, you may not think about that or realise that when you are buying your coffee, because it's only £4, right? It's a beep and simple. Pick up your coffee, go and grab it, off you go. So let me just put this into the equation as well. So we then worked out, what if you had a really nice cup of coffee at home and you treated yourself to one of those machines? Let's say an espresso machine, something like that. I'm only giving these names just for demonstration purposes. And let's say that the pod for each cup of coffee costs around 50p each. So instead of grabbing your £4 coffee, you've now got a 50p cup of coffee. So that's an eighth of the cost of your cuppa as you go to work. So if you were to turn on your machine in the morning and grab your flask, one of those sort of heated mug flask type things, and stick yourself a coffee in there, then you'd be talking about £182 a year. That's a heck of a saving, right? So just that alone is pretty astonishing. If we go even further and we still talk about a decent cup of coffee, okay, and let's talk about maybe something like a Senseo machine, which are not as common over here in the UK anymore, but I know that they are still popular in other parts of the world. And let's say you get a coffee pad for one of those, then typically speaking, the cost of a coffee pad is about 12p. So that costs £43.80 for a year's worth of coffee from a, let's say, Senseo machine. Now, just thinking about that, think about other items that you use or you buy each and every day. Perhaps you grab yourself a bottle of water on the way to work. That's another classic example, rather than just filling it up from your tap or your filter. I mean, that's just astonishing as well, because grabbing a bottle of water from anywhere these days is what, £1, £1.50? Yeah. So you can see just how powerful this exercise is if you use the compounding effect and you work out how much these things are costing you each and every day. I know people who are struggling to make ends meet, and they go and grab themselves a coffee from the petrol station. Sorry, not a coffee, a sandwich, or like a meal deal type thing at the service station, which must be costing them like £5 a day, whereas they could easily make themselves a sandwich the night before or in the morning and take that to work for a fraction of the cost. So just by making these little tweaks, you can see how much of an impact it can actually have. Classic example, my parents, when I was younger, they used to smoke. There's one thing that put me off smoking in my life was the fact that I had to sit in the back seat of the car with them chuffing away, puffing away, I should say, in the front seats, and it really put me off for life. So, yeah, thank you, parents, for that. But for about 5 years of my life, the first 5 years, they used to smoke, and they soon realised, well, if we quit smoking, then how much are we going to save? Because we didn't really go on foreign holidays at that time. Now, what happened was when I was 5 years old, they quit smoking. And from that point on, they were able to afford a foreign holiday every single year just because they'd given up smoking. And they were saving the money from that to be able to go on holiday. Now, that's an inspirational story as far as I'm concerned. And I've always remembered that story. So hopefully that just gives you a little bit of an idea or two as well. So on to the second top tip, which is the art of haggling. Now, if you can get good at haggling on small items like a piece of clothing, let's say from an independent clothing store or an antique shop or somewhere that you have the ability to perhaps do a little bit of a banter or a market somewhere like that where you can banter and you can start to see if you can get some money off, then you can start to develop your skills in terms of the bigger purchases in life. And not many people realize that you can actually haggle, negotiate is the official word, right? With some of the larger stores as well. And certainly if you're going to buy a car or a holiday or an item which is expensive, let's say. So if you can start to learn how to haggle, perhaps that's going to be a whole other podcast episode because it's quite a lot of detail to go into, then basically that could be, a really, really, really great way of saving a decent chunk of money. And certainly when you get to the point where you're purchasing a property, then this could literally save you thousands, if not tens of thousands of pounds on one purchase. So I highly recommend that you get good at haggling. I had a great experience when I was younger, and I went to Algeria, and then later on in my early 20s I went to Tunisia, and I went to the markets there and I learned how to haggle, and I witnessed my mum haggling in my early years as well. So the fact that I kind of adopted that idea and those principles and the techniques and the tips has stood me in really good stead over the years to be able to learn the art of negotiation, the art of haggling. So top tips there. Right, on to the next top tip. And this is all about shopping for big purchases. Now, I've just mentioned about negotiating, but another really key tactic when it comes to big purchases, and I mean things like white goods, furniture, holiday, car, etc., things like that, things where you're going to be making a large purchase. So for example, when we moved into our house, we knew the table and chair set we wanted for our dining area, and full price. It was, quite pricey. And I absolutely knew that in a couple of months' time, the price would be coming down because of the sales. Okay, now I know that you know about Black Friday sales, New Year sales, Easter sales, etc., etc. However, sometimes if we need or want something, we can get wrapped up in the impulse purchase, and we purchase these things when they are full price or there isn't the same level of deep discount as you would get on the sale times. Okay, so the best thing to do, if you possibly can, it's difficult if something breaks down, of course, like a tumble dryer or a washing machine or dishwasher or whatever, some sort of white good like that. If it breaks down, then invariably you're going to have to make that purchase. But if you can plan, like if you're changing your furniture, your three-piece suite, let's say, or your dining table and chairs, or a bed, or a mattress, or whatever it is, then you can time it with the sales and you can shop around. And believe you me, a bit of research goes a very long way. And it just makes all the difference. And again, you can save yourself hundreds and possibly thousands of pounds a year. We've literally just done it on our own mattress at home, and saved ourselves a pretty penny, probably about, I think, 45% on the retail value, because we bought it just at the right time. So that's, a great idea if you are thinking about making big purchases and wanting to save money. Okay. The fourth idea, the fourth top tip on how to save money, is to shop around on your debt. So if you have any type of debt, whether that's credit cards, loans, mortgages, shop around. See if you can switch to a better deal. I did a little experiment when we first started getting into property, and we had credit cards which were offering us around about sort of 19, 20, 21% APR interest rate on any balance that we had on the credit card. And I took it upon myself to ring the credit card companies up and say, hey guys, what's the best rate you can do for us? And then zipped it. And quite often, again, it depends on the timing and the person you're speaking to when you're actually getting in touch. And that's even if you can speak to people these days. I do appreciate that times have changed. And you may well have to kind of go on websites and put it into chatbots and things like that. However, you can get some really good deals on your borrowings. So particularly if you have a car loan or a mortgage, and indeed some credit cards as well, there's no harm in ringing them up and saying, I've got this credit card with you, and it's on XYZ interest rate. What is the best you can do? And then just zip it. Tiny little bit of a negotiation tip there. Okay. And see what they come back with. If they're not able to help you, then that's fine. You ring up another day, or you leave it another month, or what have you. So it's a really good idea. It's a lovely little top tip there. We have saved probably quite a large fortune on switching interest rates when they have become available, particularly on mortgages. My husband, other half, Dennis, is amazing at that. He keeps his eye out, ear to the ground, as to where the best interest rates are in the arena when we have to come to refinance, and gets really, really good rates on those. So between us, we have made really good savings over the year. So that's another great, great one. And finally, and this is a pretty big one, I think, I was having a chat with a young chap who was serving me in a store the other day. And we were having a good conversation, and I actually did my beep beep to make my purchase with my phone, which I don't usually do as a rule, because I either like to still use cash or take my credit card, okay, having the phone is a very easy thing to do, but I think it's a little bit of a slippery slope. And we were having this conversation about the slippery slope of how easy it is just to do the beep beep on the machine to pay for things. And I said, particularly for his generation, he was in his, I'd say, early to mid 20s. And I said, you've got to watch yourself, and, you've got to be careful that you're not seeing money pass through your hands. You're just seeing numbers on a screen, and it doesn't mean the same. It's not got the same relationship. And he absolutely agreed with me. He said, He said, yeah, I get to the end of the month and I look at my credit card statement and I look at my account and I just see how much has gone out and I see how big the balance is and it's scary. And I said, right, okay, yep, it's all about learning to manage your money, to manage where your outgoings are going, because it's so easy in this modern world to make those purchases quickly and easily. And one of the biggest things he was saying was about membership or subscription services, where you're paying for something regularly and it goes out of your account automatically. And actually, that they are the most dangerous, because you don't even remember that they're there. You don't even necessarily use them. They're not necessarily even, helpful to you, because you're just kind of lurking in the background. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you go through your bank statements, your PayPals, whatever it is, to look and see which subscriptions you have, which ones you actually need, use, and want, and then get rid of the rest. Okay? It's as simple as that. And again, you could be saving yourself hundreds of pounds a year for something which is fairly silent. And another thing he said was, he'll subscribe to things and then he'll just forget that he's subscribed and forget to unsubscribe. So then the next payment goes out and the next one. And then he might think, oh gosh, yes, then I need to actually unsubscribe. But do it. Put it in your diary, put it in whatever form of diary you have, to remember to cancel that subscription if you don't want it beyond the trial period or the first month. Okay, so these are incredibly useful tools, tips in terms of actually saving money. So what to do with all these savings that you're making? Because believe you me, they mount up significantly. We actually have a spreadsheet that we work with. We love spreadsheets in the Freedom Club. It just, it makes life so much easier and it's just fun. It's fun. I know spreadsheets, depends what you think about them, but you can make them fun, right? Especially when you see how much is accruing, how much your pot is building when you make all these savings. And it just makes you realize that you can save probably hundreds, if not thousands of pounds a year just by making these few tweaks. Now, these are just the top 5 that I've suggested to you today. We literally have a list as long as your arm with all the different ways that you can save money. And we created a course called On the Money a few years ago, which we have in our back office. So if you want access to that and you want to learn more ways to save those funds of yours and create a bigger pot to work with, then just be in touch with us on the link on this page and we'll get you set up with all of that. So what to do with all these funds? Well, it will enable you to start actually working with this extra money and deploying it in a much more useful and beneficial way to you. And, essentially, if you've listened to my apportioning episode, then it will help you to be able to allocate these funds to things that you really want in your life, ways that you can actually make even more money and build your wealth, because this is what it's all about. You don't just have to make extra money, you can save money and you can put that towards your wealth building as well. So if you've enjoyed this episode, then please, just like, follow, subscribe to the channel and pop me a comment. Let me know how you're getting on with your savings and if a little light bulb has gone off for you during this episode. I always love to hear feedback and how you're getting on. So until the next time, take care and have fun with saving money. Bye for now.